Hi, this is Paul Park with Lepic-Kroeger Realtors, and I'm here with Jeff Dill, and this is Real Talk, and we're going to talk a little bit today about the benefits of using a realtor. Jeff, you've been in this business a long time. How long have you been in the business?
30 years, Paul.
30
years last September.
So you provided a lot of value over the years. So we could talk for hours about this subject, obviously. We're going to go ahead and just scroll some of the things that a realtor does throughout the transaction. Feel free to pause the video or slow it down if you want to read some of those. But Jeff, what do you think, what's one of the trickier things that we help with as a buyer's agent in particular?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the main reasons why we have a job is because of people who want to buy and sell at the same time. You know, that's a little trickier. And a lot of it depends on the buyer's ability, their risk tolerance, on what they're willing to do. Because remember, when you're buying and selling, you aren't going to be able to move into the house you're buying until you can pay for it. And you're not going to get the money from the house you're selling until you vacated the property. So sometimes we talk about bridge loans. We talk about closing at the same time and what that means, and trying to juggle all your furniture and where it goes. We try to talk about, do you close on the new house and then put your old house on the market? Do you put your current house on the market strategically a few months before you close on your other house? And everybody's different. You know, people live in their houses. Some people live hard in their houses and may have a little bit more prep to do, or may have a lot of things. So we talk to them about, the best way to present it. But a lot of it has to do with financial things. So we can give good advice on that, but a lot of times we'll certainly recommend them visit with their lender, and then they can talk about their very specific private financial situation with their lender and what their risk tolerance is if they're willing to try to carry a couple mortgages for a short period of time, and knowing full well that if their house doesn't sell right away, it could be a little longer, but generally it all comes out in the end.
It's one of the trickiest things we have to help people navigate. And that, I guess, kind of transitions into one of the things that, I feel like we bring, and that is just the relationships that we have with lenders, with attorneys, with movers, just name it. There's a gauntlet of people that we have and we work with on a daily basis.
We're a great resource, aren't we, Paul?
Absolutely. Yep. So when somebody comes and you need to figure something like that out, it really helps to have those personal relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with having all the, experience and the fact that we do this every day, what do you think is a good example of, another, just something that you bring to a buyer or a seller?
Right. Advantages is, I think, if you will.
Yeah.
A lot of it just has to do with history. After doing this for 30 years, there's few streets that I can drive on in Iowa City that I didn't participate in a sale previously with, where I had the property listed before and co-opt with another realtor, or I represented the buyer and worked with another listing agent, even from another company. And so that history helps, I think, me give great advice to my clients, because I can remember maybe if there was a boundary dispute that we were able to work out on a property years before and make sure it was corrected properly and recorded properly so it doesn't come up again. There could be all kinds of aspects. I can sometimes remember a roof was put on a house, maybe not exactly the date, but I can kind of remember some of those things because I participated in them before. And a lot of my clients find that really helpful. They're like, wow, you knew about this like 2 owners ago? And I'll be like, I did, and I remember it. Or even like a change in the covenants or restrictions. Sometimes they get amended. Homeowners associations come up with new rules all the time with the ever-changing landscape. Now we're starting to see solar panels, so we're starting to see some people come up with a policy about the aesthetics of solar. And are they allowing it on the ground mounted, or can it be on a roof? Can it be on the front of a house? Those kinds of things. So some of that history has helped me give advice for my clients to be able to consider those things as they either move forward with selling their property or move forward with the purchase of a property.
It's a great point, and it kind of comes to a point that I wanted to talk about too, and that is the ever-changing legal landscape. I mean, every year there's different laws, there's different, requirements. There's so many different things. And I know, being a realtor, we have certain education requirements that we have to keep up with, which, 8 hours of law update, 4 hours of ethics, 24 hours of elective, courses. And that just doesn't even include, our sales meetings, our discussions, great discussions at those. So we are just, in it every day. And it is hard to imagine, not being involved to the level that we are, and then just jumping into something like that.
Right.
There's so many ways that you could, potentially find yourself in trouble. So it's, one of those things where hiring a professional, is really important.
Absolutely. I can even mention a couple things over the years that have just changed from that aspect. Remember when the Emerald Ash Borer was a big deal, and that was added to our seller disclosure statement. So if people had an ash tree on their property, they're asked if they do and if they know if it's been infected, or if there's if the Emerald Ash Borer has been discovered within 10 to 15 miles of the property. We've had the time of transfer, Iowa being a pretty rural state. So a lot of septic systems out there. So the state passed a law that this has been in recent years. It's still happened for a while now that, that there has to be a time of transfer inspection done to make sure that septic is up to code, functioning properly. A lot of that based on the DNR and that it's not causing problems that way as well. And there's been some agency changes. There's been lots of different little changes over the years that we need to keep up with in our profession. Those are just a couple examples.
Absolutely. And really, important. Like I said, we could talk for hours about this. We don't want to make this video that long, but the advocacy things that realtors do at the state capitol, at our nation's capital, advocating for private property rights is an important piece of what we do. And anyway, I won't make this video an hour just on that, but also let's see, I was thinking about all the different things that, we bring, and just some of I think we're problem solvers, and that's what those relationships, come in handy. There's always, I've never had like but a smooth deal. So when something comes up, I had a guy, I was listing his house, and during the deal, he had to move to Japan for work. Well, he decided to get married at the courthouse and didn't let me know. And so long story short, he is in Japan. We're supposed to close on his house. He got married. Now she has to sign all those documents, and kudos to our closing departments. And
they have to be notarized.
The attorneys.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. So those docs had to get notarized. So he had to go to the embassy in Japan, but that was closed. So then he hopped on a little plane, went to China to their embassy, got him got it signed, got the docs back, still closed in time. And it was nothing short of a miracle. And I was just, it's just one of those things.
That's a great story that you bring up, because that is an example of problem solving, coming up with ways to fix it, make it work.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
And doing it,
Absolutely.
We do this all day,
That's
every
what we
day.
do.
So
that's what we do.
Solving those problems is, and on, on the consumer's end, it all seems to go really smooth, but there could be a whole lot of things going on that, the whole team is handling.
That's
so
exactly right.
Very important. But
yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
I would just mention that, realtors know a lot about a lot of things, know a little bit about a lot of things, but a lot about real estate, right? And you brought up the relationship thing, which is great. But we bring that personal, emotional aspect into it, where we can try to help our clients come to decisions that are best for them. That's the key, is trying to help people make good decisions. And if we can do our job and make sure they have all the information they need, they've considered anything and everything that could affect the value of that property and affect their usage of the property, we've done our job. And I look at us as wealth management people, but we focus in real estate. And real estate, a house is most people's largest investment. So look to an agent. You look to a wealth management person to manage your 401k to make sure you're on track to retire. Look to a real estate agent or a realtor, to give you the best advice when you're making the largest decision, whether you're selling or buying your largest investment. I think that's really important.
Super important. Well, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Paul.
I hope everyone, got to hear a little bit about, what we do. Again, you should have been scrolling through, and there's so many different things that we do, and we try to make it smooth. We try to make it easy, for the clients, but it really, it pays to have a professional helping you buy and sell real estate. So thanks for your time, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, Paul.
You bet.